You know those moments where you wished you had a reset button? Well, DC probably needed one desperately, and they made one with the new Flash movie. So, let's discuss that, shall we? So let's start off with what we know so far with the trailer and the Flashpoint comics. We already have a bit of a plot overview in the trailer's description for the new Flash movie, and it seems like it follows most of the main plot points in the comics with just a little bit of a spin. We can see that our protagonist, Barry Allen, has returned to the past as he's seen in front of Nora Allen's house. And to right old wrongs, his goal is to prevent his mother's death and then in turn, protect the universe that he's ended up in because that's where his mother is. But if we squint our eyes a little bit, there is something fishy here. And it is clearly not only the past that he's returned to, we can see that he's definitely gone to a different timeline altogether, where we're back to the times where heroes are sparse and things don't look too good for anyone. Well, except for us viewers, that is, because we can see in the trailer that some of the old Batman are returning once more. God, the nostalgia's through the roof, man. You know, when he says, "I'm Batman."
I'm Batman.
And the music plays. Ugh. Anyway, the presence of these Batmen just further leans toward the narrative that this isn't just the past, it's an alternate universe, which actually is just the confirmation of the multiverse at this point. So now in this timeline, where we have no Justice League and no Superman, and in the comics anyway, the Amazons and the Atlanteans are at war, the timeline is already doomed. But the Red Speedrunner still wants to cling on to this universe. As Michael Keaton's Batman says in the trailer, that Barry has the ability to go to any universe. How will the reset happen? But before we dive into that, please make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't yet. It makes our day just a little bit better. Now, in the comics, after all the events of the Flashpoint arc have taken place and we're nearing the conclusion, we can see that Barry is back in the original timeline. Except he really isn't, and things are not the same, obviously as a result of the events that transpired in whatever timeline he came from. And with the Flash using his Speed Force to shift universes, we now know that whatever universe he has ended up in will not be the original DC universe that we know, and possibly just never be the one same universe. If we all remember Crisis on Infinite Earths, Barry Allen was already using his speed to shift to different universes, defeating the Anti-Monitor and altering reality where he doesn't end up destroying everything. But with these events, multiple Earths merged together, allowing a wacky reboot to come into play, bringing about the creation of the New 52 line of rebooted comics. And this wasn't even the first time that Barry was able to mess with time and different universes, which only establishes the fact that he has this ability of timeline traveling or something. An ability which will be explored in the upcoming Flash movie. This ability is also able to make or break new universes. But similar to how the comics were rebooted after Flashpoint, we can see the same thing happening here, although it is unsure if the DCEU is going to be the New 52 universe now or something else entirely. That is something we'll have to wait and see. But what does it all mean for DC? We now have the elements of time travel and the multiverse that we can use. This opens up a lot of opportunities for James Gunn to create a new universe, and as he said himself, for things to make sense and connect. And we all know the history of DC films. They've never done too well on the charts, with the exception of very few films, and some have even been reduced to just memes. The material and story that DC has is definitely interesting enough to keep us engaged and give us a different look at heroes than what Marvel has presented. There is such an interesting array of characters and storylines that haven't been explored at all, and so far we've been unable to see the proper artistic execution of those ideas that still remain in the comics. The best set of DC movies were Christopher Nolan's Batman movies, and then we really had nothing better after that. Well, I guess the Joker movie was pretty well received, but you know what I'm trying to say, right? So if we consider all this history, the actors that have left, the actors that cannot be casted, and all the other troubles, DC really needed a reboot. The formula that they were working with for all these years wasn't bearing any good results, or any sort of good entertainment. We could see interesting concepts that fell flat, or even interesting characters that didn't work out, or weren't even properly presented. DC needed something new, something different to bring to the interest of the audience and give a proper tribute to the source material. Superman and Batman are DC's biggest heroes, but there was nothing particularly interesting that we could get out of watching the same formulaic movies over and over. There were a lot of other potential heroes in the comics that just weren't being brought to the screen, and honestly, as a side note, the visuals needed some work as well. Not all the time, but like most of the time. In a competition against Marvel, we were getting rushed out films with unfinished ideas and poor direction. It seemed as if DC had no vision to follow. This is mainly what DC needed the most: proper direction and a vision to follow for future movies and entertainment, which now with this reboot and James Gunn taking the lead, the DC universe can be rebuilt with a clear shot at what needs to be done. It isn't entirely strange for a reboot to happen, as we've seen it happen in the comics many times, so it just makes sense for it to happen in the films. It seems as though everyone has really high hopes for the direction that James Gunn seems to be taking them in, but we'll just have to wait and see. This could turn out to be the revival of DC, or just run it into the ground again, but that's fine because the reset can happen repeatedly and it would still make sense. Which could be what our new DC creators are hoping for. A bad idea is bad, so just sweep it under the rug and hit the reset button, and it's like it never happened. After this reset finally happens, we can only expect things to be different in the DCEU. Or at least we hope it's a good different, because now with the multiverse and time travel in the mix, a lot of things are possible, including recasting. Over the past few years, there have also been issues with DC's previous actors, as we know that we saw Henry Cavill returning as Superman in Black Adam, but then we heard the news that Henry Cavill might not continue as Superman, which he later confirmed on Instagram, so that's pretty much where that unfortunate circumstance currently stands. But this also means that recasting Superman would make sense, and recasting any other heroes or villains would make sense as well, since after the reset it would not be the same DC universe that we've known until now. There can be entirely different plots, entirely different actors, and an entirely different Justice League, or even none at all. We already have TV shows and animated shows coming out as well, with heroes that no one saw coming. I mean, Booster Gold? We really never thought we'd see him on the big screen. And we even have the return of Viola Davis as Amanda Waller in Chapter 1 Gods and Monsters. Although we haven't heard of many other reappearing actors, Viola Davis's return just gives room for us to speculate even more reappearances without the creators having to worry if it makes sense or not, because now probably everything will. But that also doesn't mean everything we know from the old DC is completely wiped out, as they plan on keeping some stuff while removing some of the other stuff. We're definitely sure that some recasting is going to be happening, maybe even recasting The Flash. For future DC content, we can expect it all to finally be connected consistently, and for all the loose ends to make some sort of sense. We also hope that this reset brings a resurrection of the DC franchise, because we definitely need properly delivered films from the comics that we love. It was sad to see most of the DC films just missing the mark, so hopefully this will get things back on track. As a little bit of a criticism, however, throwing in the multiverse to any kind of cinematic universe is like a free pass for creators to be able to do whatever they want in the universe. Which, in a way, is a good thing, as it allows for more room for creativity. But it also allows for an inconsistent plot, as now anything goes. And questioning any plot hole just goes back to the answer that it's the multiverse, where anything is possible. It's almost like the equivalent of watching a whole movie and then reaching the end where the protagonist wakes up and whatever we watched was a dream. We all hate the "it was all a dream" conclusion because of how lazy it is to explain everything as a dream. And it could be that this multiverse business is becoming the same thing. Or not. I mean, the concept is pretty fun with all the different universes, but what do you think? Is the multiverse line of storytelling becoming an easy way out? Honestly, we think this new reset could mean a lot of good changes for DC, some that really needed to be made, and we're very excited to see the DCEU be resurrected. So, what do you think? Make sure to like this video and subscribe for future content just like this, and also comment down below on what you think this reset could bring for us. Until next time, thanks for watching.